A lot of times it does it twice. I don't know why. Sometimes it says recording has started once and then it'll say twice. So, anyway, thank you all for joining in Bikini Chef, Bikini Cooking with the Bikini Chef season. As most of you who follow and know me, I wear several hats, and one of them is Bikini Chef. It's a name that was given to me after my first book tour when people asked me what reminded me of cooking, why I love to cook, and it reminded me of home when I would be at the lake in Alabama. We would water ski all day, ended up cooking in our bikinis. But then it translates to healthy foods because now people ask me how I stay fit and healthy. And I'm going to reveal something right now that many of you may not know. I'm 55 years old and I'm pretty darn excited that I can still wear a bikini. Last week, if you missed it, we did a really delicious pear and Stilton blue cheese,
Oh my
walnut
goodness.
salad. Yes, I know. You'll, if you missed the class, I can send you the link to the class and the recipe. The recipe I'm going to do today is actually going to be live. So I'm going to try not to talk too much while I prep the actual ingredients to get the recipe started. And then we can talk things through once it's cooking. So on that note, let me get started. The featured ingredient today is fennel. Fennel,
Yum.
yeah, fennel is such a fun ingredient, flavorful, packed with nutrients, but we're not going to start with the fennel. We're going to
That looks
start.
like a Las Vegas headdress.
Oh, of
If you
course.
put it, if you,
My hair is clean and you're eating at home. So there. So we're going to start with a white onion. On your recipe, I say yellow or white onion, but I selected a white onion on purpose because it's a little more pungent in flavor. You've probably seen many chefs on television, slice and dice an onion, but I'm going to give you the quick lowdown. So you slice off the stem end. Even at home, whether I'm doing a show or not, I have my little bucket so I don't have to keep going back and forth to the trash can. So I have my little bucket right there. You slice through the root end of the onion, and then you peel off the outer layer. Really don't want to bore you with this, but I'm going to have to because this is going to be a live recipe from start to finish. No pre-prep, and that's on purpose. I wanted to show you how simple it is, and there's a lot of different techniques that you can learn by, just taking you through the whole thing. And the recipe is so simple that it really won't take that long. I am going to save you a little bit of time today in the sense that I'm going to do half of the recipe. So in the full recipe, it's a whole onion, medium onion, but I'm just going to do a half a recipe today for time. So you slice down the top, then you do horizontally, and then you go down the top this way. You don't really need to worry about the onion, the size of the onion dice being super uniform in this recipe. I mean, you don't want big chunks versus tiny chunks, but we're going to puree it anyway. So uh, size matters, but not totally.
do you have any tips for
Okay.
crying or not crying when you cut the onion?
There's so many tips for that. So before I get to that, I'm going to put a little grapeseed oil. I'm going to turn the fire on. Hopefully you can see at least the top part of the stock pot. So the flame is on. Here's the stock pot. Here, I'll show it to you kind of throughout the class. Just put a little bit of grapeseed oil. I use grapeseed oil because it retains its nutrient properties at a higher temperature. Also, it is kind of a neutral flavor. The reason why you don't want to cook with an olive oil is because of that cooking temperature. But in your recipe in this, you could use a heartier flavor oil. Flavor is not the reason we're not using the oil, it's the cooking temperature. So this is getting hot very quickly, so I'm going to put my onion in. I know you can hear it, even if you can't see it. Okay, fantastic. So we're just going to take a wooden spoon because it's a metal pan. We're just going to move that around. You can see it a tiny bit.
Yes.
That's all you get for now.
You're such a tease.
I'm going to need to invest in some kind of 2-camera setup if we're going to be in COVID much longer. But actually, COVID schmovid. Starting on December 30th, I'm going to begin doing a video podcast called At Home with Susan. And we're going to be talking food, we're going to be talking health, but we're also going to be talking real estate and kitchen design and things for the home. So this is fennel. I just chopped off the root end, okay? Fennel has a licorice type flavor. It's a very bold flavor. A lot of people say, oh, maybe they don't like fennel. However, when you cook it with lots of other different types of flavorful ingredients, like onion, I'm going to give you some tips later on other ingredients you can add. It really is a powerful, wonderful ingredient. What I'm doing right now is I'm in the recipe. I'm so glad that you joined me in class today because when I sent you the recipe, I said to just chop off the fronds and reserve them later. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to utilize these fronds. A lot of times the chefs will chop these off and then not use them, but they taste very similar to the actual bulb of the fennel. So I'm just going to pull a few of these off now and show you what we're going to do. Okay, come back to that in a second. So the fronds, you're going to take your knife. I do this if I'm using dill, cilantro, Italian parsley. So you just want to just take your knife, leverage it, pull off the delicate leaves, the actual frond leaves. Okay, I'm going to show you what we're going to do with these later. And for the sake of time, that's all I'm going to do. But this is a really beautiful one. Yeah. Oh, for something like that, we'll just pull it right off the stem. And you always want to grab it and pull it backwards off the stem. Okay, so that way it comes off easier. All right, so now I'm going to take these fronds and I'm going to set them aside in a bowl. I'm going to quickly give my onions a stir. So they're actually caramelizing a little bit. You can see the color. That also brings out the natural flavor. Okay, so my fennel bulb, I'm going to go ahead and chop off these stems. But I'm not going to throw them away. We're actually going to use them in our soup. It's not on your recipe. That's why it's always good to come to class. Okay, so I sliced my fennel bulb in half. You can see at the bottom there's like kind of that root, that core. We're going to cut that out very carefully. This down for a second. So just going to do one slice on that side, one slice on this side, and boom, there you go, core gone. And one slice here, slice here. And now in your recipe, you have 2 fennel bulbs that you're using. Fennel actually, it's it has a strong root system. It's very interwoven. You can see I pre-wash these. So you want to be sure that you do pre-wash them very well before you cook with them, because they do like to harbor the soils of the earth, as we would say. Again, we're going to end up pureeing this. This is going to be very soft when we puree it. So, you don't want huge chunky pieces like this, but you don't need to worry about chopping it really fine, which is nice. That can be a little bit of a pain. Okay, so now I'm going to put my fennel in here. My onions will be very happy. They're feeling lonely, getting a little caramelized. I'm going to add a pinch of salt and pepper to them in just a moment. Okay, so essentially we're just going to sweat these, right? I'm going to turn down the heat slightly to about medium-low to low. I'm going to go ahead and toss in a little bit, pinch of pepper, a little pinch of salt, and stir that a little bit more. This is one of the easiest, most simple soups that you can make, and also still impress your guests. The reason for that is because, who cooks with fennel, right? Not very many people. So I'm going to go ahead and cover that. I'm going to let that sit while I do my potatoes. So your recipe calls for 1 medium Yukon Gold potato. Hi,
Hey, Susan. Hey, Steve.
There.
Hey.
Hey.
Vinny. So your recipe calls for 1 medium Yukon Gold potato. All right. When I went to the store, they just had a big bag of Yukon Gold. They did not sell them individually. So there were lots of little ones, and then there were larger ones. So I would say either use 2 smaller ones or 1 larger one. This is where the creaminess comes from. The reason why it's a Yukon Gold potato versus, say, a russet baking potato or even a red potato is because the flesh is very soft, and it's going to not only give it a natural creamy flavor, it's going to cook a little faster, okay? So we like that, especially when we're doing a recipe that's live, and we don't want everyone to be sitting around for an hour, right? You might get bored, although I've been called many things. One of them is most likely not boring.
Yukon Gold's my favorite potato. It's so buttery and creamy.
They are buttery and creamy. I don't use these though for mashed potatoes. I use the russet baking potatoes when I make mashed potatoes. But I do use them in recipes like these when I want that natural creamy texture, but without using dairy. So I invited our vegan and vegetarian friends to join class today because this is a vegan recipe if you don't add the crab, and we'll talk about that. So, okay, so I'm just going to do my potato. This potato cooks quickly. I'm just going to roughly chop it. Don't need to worry about even, a lot of times, like if you're roasting potatoes, you need the potato dices and slices to be of similar size so that they roast and cook evenly. You don't really need to worry about that so much in this recipe, okay? So let me get my towel. And I'm going to add in, oh yeah, so when you cover the saucepan, a little bit warm, hold on. you cover the saucepan or the stock pot, it's essentially sweating the vegetables, right? But you're still getting a little bit of caramelization, which adds flavor. And that's what this recipe is all about. So it's a super simple recipe without doing a lot to it. You get a ton of flavor and depth of color with the caramelization of the veg. So these are nicely sweated. And now I'm going to add in the potatoes. Again, I'm doing half the recipe. And a great point to note is this is a perfect recipe if you're cooking for 1 or 2 people. You can easily half it. Comes out the same, no problem.
Susan, can you give us the recap of what's in the pan right now?
Yeah, because I'm late, Susan.
Yeah, no problem. So in the pan, we have some diced white onion. We have 1 fennel bulb, and I'll send you the replay so you can catch the intriguing, exciting moments when we slice the fennel.
Okay.
I gotta add in some more fennel, which I will. So because I wanted to add in our the stems. So these are kind of like celery, right? And I don't know about you, but I like to use the whole celery stalk. And so, Vinny, I've taken the fronds, like the actual herb part of fennel, and I'm going to use that for garnish later. But for now, I'm going to take kind of the stalk part, which a lot of people discard, but it tastes very similar to the actual fennel bulb. So I'm just going to roughly chop that, and I'm going to toss it in with my Yukon Gold potato and my fennel bulb and my onion. I did go ahead and add a little bit of salt and pepper to that. And now I'm just going to cover the whole thing with some vegetable broth. So you can, if you want a little more flavor, you can add chicken broth. That was about 2 cups. I'm going to add 1 more cup. You want to cover it, so that's pretty well covered. Also, I like to reserve a little bit of the broth in case when you go to puree it, it's a little thicker than you want, then you can always thin it out.
Okay.
Oh, great. So that essentially is the main part of our recipe. So all this has to do is simmer. I'm going to turn the heat back up. And all we're doing is simmering that for about 10 minutes. So I know what you're thinking. What are we going to do for 10 minutes? I'm going to tell you.
You're going to entertain us, Susan. Susan, you're going to entertain us. Or Steve's going to entertain us.
So I was showing you earlier. So whether it's parsley, cilantro, dill, really you just, again, can leverage your knife, because I went through that pretty quickly, and you just kind of press your knife lightly against the edge of the herb, and then you just peel off, the fruit of the herb, which is the leaf that you're doing. Here are these, I guess these are leaves, they're really tiny. Then we're gonna use these as our garnish. So while that's cooking, okay, I'm just gonna take
What kind of aroma are you feeling, Susan, or are you smelling? What's the aroma in the kitchen right now?
I keep waiting for these video conference applications to come up with a smell can. And I'm
Good
not
idea.
sure. I'm not sure if that's good or bad because, promise you I did take a shower today. Just for you guys. But yeah, it would be helpful for cooking classes. So we have a licorice smell.
Okay.
I really don't like to eat licorice, but I do like fennel. So we have the aroma of the caramelization. For those of you who maybe don't know what caramelization is, it's when the natural sugars from the food comes out, so whether it's a fruit or a vegetable, they all have these natural sugars, which are also known as carbohydrates. And so there are the good carbs and the not so good carbs. These are the good carbs. So those are the aromas that I'm smelling right now. Later, we're going to smell some other aromas. So I just wanted to show you. So the vegetable stock I just used a basic, vegetable stock. I'm not promoting this particular brand. It just happened to be the one that was most convenient on the shelf.
And if you wanted to keep it vegan, you would not use a chicken stock, correct?
Yes, correct. So this is a vegetable stock that I use. But yeah, to keep it vegan, vegetarian, you need to use vegetable stock, not the chicken broth for sure. However, if you're not vegan or you're vegetarian and you want like a slight extra layer of flavor, chicken broth, but use do not use beef broth. Okay, beef broth is way too intense in flavor, and it will actually ruin your dish unless you are cooking something that has beef already in it, or even I wouldn't even use beef broth if I was doing like a braised lamb or anything. So beef goes with beef, chicken and vegetable can go with everything else.
All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. Okay. In last week's recipe, we did, as I mentioned, a pear and Stilton salad with cranberry, and I really kind of forgot to talk about a lot of the health benefits in that. So it's so packed with uh, antioxidants and phytochemicals that improve, your health. And that was one of the reasons why I selected that dish. It had pear in it, fresh pear, and fresh pear has tons of water content and fiber. And it's a little bit similar to our recipe today in the sense that our fennel bulb has been chopped up, so we don't have any more. But fennel is a great ingredient for what vitamin do you think fennel has the highest concentration of? Without Googling it.
A.
I have no idea.
I bet it's C. Vitamin C.
Yeah, vitamin C. Fennel is one of the highest, has one of the highest vitamin C properties that in most any vegetable, which is interesting because it's a green and white vegetable. When we think of vitamin C, we think of oranges and lemons and things like that, the citrus fruits, but fennel has that. Fennel also has a nice concentration of magnesium in it. Magnesium is great for our immune system, as is vitamin C. Magnesium helps improve our mood. So if we're grumpy, we can eat some fennel.
I'll feed it to my husband.
Oh, man.
I love it. So I'm going to give a little bit of tip on the vitamin C and the other ingredients we can put on here in a few minutes. But let's go and check on. So again, I put the vegetable stock in with the potatoes and it's boiling. So I covered it.
Ooh, that looks good.
Yeah. See? Oh, thank you. And it smells good too.
I bet. Could you turn on the smelling kitchen?
Oh, Pam, I know. I don't think they don't. So while we're doing that, I was going to share with you a couple of tips from I'm going to do a knife skills class soon, I feel. Because knife skills are super important. So I showed this last week, but I didn't do it with this knife. So most accidents in the kitchen happen when you have a dull knife. This is just a handheld sharpener. And it's a ceramic blade here. And so you can just take your knife and go through. And just a few times. And then I always wipe off the blade. Give me one moment. Homer, who was trying to eat some of the fennel that I dropped him. I know. Pets will eat anything. So I have the rest of an onion here. So just to show you, we already talked about onion, but you can see when you're slicing down, you always want to go down and forward a little bit. Okay, so down and then
Um,
down and then forward. Down. So just think down and slightly forward. Slice through your product. And then we'll do it this way, down and forward. So it doesn't matter whether you're chopping an herb or you're chopping an onion, a beet, a carrot, chicken, anything. You want to go down and forward and slice through the product. Do you have any idea why you might want to do that?
Susan, I don't know. I'm not creative and not good like you when I chop an onion.
Good, you're the best. So the reason why you want to do is so that you don't bruise the product, and you also
Oh,
don't.
okay.
And also, it has less opportunity to get stuck if you're really kind of being elevated and
Right.
sliced down and through. It's like
Okay.
product. So there's less
Okay.
likely that you're going to cut yourself, and also you won't bruise the product. So let's say that we're doing the leaves or the herb, and you're slicing through it, as opposed to if you're just pressing down like this, you're
Right.
gonna the leaves. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Learn
And
something every day.
what that means is they're going to, they'll get dark. You won't release the juices and natural oils of the
Okay.
that you're slicing through. You're just kind of mashing it out. Does that make sense?
Okay. That makes sense. It does.
Okay, so I'm going to check on our soup.
I'm back. I'm so sorry.
Well, yeah. What was up with that?
I'm sorry.
No, we're kidding.
It's
Okay, so
crazy these times of Zoom and just everything happens. I apologize, the bikini chef.
no, it does. Everybody's busy. We're in all different time zones. We're in 3 different time zones. We actually
Right.
have participants that signed up in Canada as well. So we're across lots of countries and time zones.
What did I miss?
Yeah, I know. So that's the fun part about video and virtual. So we're almost done. So see that? It's very tender, but I want it to be slightly more tender. Not too much though. So we're just about 1 to 2 minutes away from our next step. So I'm going to cover it again. Just for another couple of minutes.
Susan, are you using that original amount of broth? Did you add any broth, or are you using that original amount you put in to steam everything, the potatoes?
Original amount. And the
Okay.
reason why you can use just the original amount, you don't need to keep adding to it, is because the lid is covered. So when you cover it, it holds the moisture in. It actually creates a little bit more moisture.
Ah,
As
perfect.
opposed to when you're doing a soup. Let's say you're doing a southern vegetable soup on the stove top and it's not covered, or like a chili, right? And you know how sometimes if the chili is simmering for 2 hours or so, you might need to add a little liquid to it. Well, here with the lid on, it's actually creating more moisture inside. So
Oh, okay.
you don't need, I mean, you can't let it sit boiling for 10 hours. but, um, but, for the duration of the recipe, it's actually hasn't lost any moisture. If anything, it's gained a little moisture. But I still returned. This was originally 6 cups, just because I poured the whole container in there to begin with, and I reserved some. But for the recipe, you would have used 4 cups. I only used 3, and then you would still have a little bit left over if you wanted to make it thinner in just a minute. So, what other questions do you have, real quick?
Susan, I've never used fennel. You know, Steve comes from California and shows me all these exciting things, but I have never used fennel in my life. I'm not even sure they have it here in the South. Do they?
They do. They do. I just bought.
They do?
I purchased this at the regular grocery store.
Did you? Okay.
Not
I'm going to
any,
look for it.
yeah, not
Okay.
any fancy market. They're gonna have it over there. Have like turnips and beets and things like that.
Okay. Okay.
The produce section. Um, I will say, I think just primarily during these times, I was only able to find organic, which is fine. But I
Yeah.
don't always use organic. It depends on the vegetable. We could probably do a whole class on that. What I buy organic and what I don't worry about so much. Fennel's not necessarily one of those ingredients that I'm overly concerned about purchasing organic. But today, or when I went, to buy it, fennel organic was all that they had, so it was in the organic section. Is my point?
Okay.
Is you have to look over there. But
Okay.
they in the South, they do. Ingredients,
Good.
I think that Vinny were harder to find when we were growing up, are a lot easier to find these days.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
A lot more different kinds of food
Yeah.
served. Yeah.
It's gonna have that licorice, that kind of bitter taste, but the
Yeah.
plus side to that is that it marries really well with citrus flavors, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Truffle oil would be amazing. This is a
Okay.
vegan vegetarian soup here, but then I'm going to add something at the end because I'm more of a pescatarian. So
Okay.
our soup's ready.
You said you're a
So,
Presbyterian?
oh, pescatarian. Okay, our soup is ready. So,
Can you send me a bowl, Susan? Can you send me a bowl or bring me a bowl?
you know me, I'll FedEx it to you.
Okay, that'd be great.
So we're gonna move over here. Now you have to let me know if you can still see okay. I've never
Yeah.
shot I've never shot a show from this side of the kitchen before. So it's a little farther away, but I think it works. Okay. So I have my Ninja blender. I'm using the bowl attachment versus like the upright blender. You can use
Okay.
the blender, but I just caution you to not overfill it. So if you're doing the full recipe, work in batches and do it. Otherwise, it can be very dangerous, and I'm very serious
Okay.
because it's a hot soup. So you don't want to put, too
Too
much
much
liquid
in there.
at one time.
Okay.
Okay? And you can make fun of my broken ladle.
I love it.
This is my
The mini.
favorite ladle.
It's a mini. A mini.
A mini ladle.
So, yeah. So this is really chunky, I'm going to ladle it in as opposed to pouring it in. Because if I pour it in, it'll make a big, gigantic mess. And then I'll get in trouble with my companion.
We don't want you to get in trouble, Susan.
I get in enough trouble by myself.
Where's Homer tonight?
What?
Where's Homer?
He wasn't here.
Okay, I was just wondering where he was.
He's over on his pillow.
Okay.
He heard you say his name.
He's supervising, huh?
Yeah, so he's excited. So now I can go ahead and put that in there. All right. Now I'm going to set this over here. Okay. Line up the arrows on my Ninja blender. So this blender was a gift years ago, and it works well, but it doesn't puree super finely. And really, when it comes to a puree soup, I kind of like mine more super fine. So I've been wanting to buy a Blendtec blender. It's a 3 horsepower Blendtec blender. It really gets it super smooth, and it also heats the soup while it's blending. So, but they're a little pricey, yeah. So I haven't purchased one yet, but maybe that'll be my New Year's present.
You better write
Maybe
Santa.
Santa will bring it to you, Susan.
Uh-oh, I lost her.
I did too.
Oh, there we go.
I see Olympia.
Okay, it really doesn't take that long to blend it. But as I said, like this one is a little bit, because I think I added the fennel stems, it's a little bit thicker than I would want it to be. So I'm going to add some of that reserve broth. And then what I say on the recipe, which I won't do today, but you can just add this back into the stock pot in the saucepan and then just heat it a little depending on when you're going to serve it. This actually is, this is super hot, so you don't really need to do that step. But if you have a few people over, then, you can just put it back in the stock pot and heat it a little bit. But you don't need to really cook it anymore. It's just about making it, to the temperature that you want. Having said that, this soup would be really delicious even if you made it a day or two ahead of time, chilled it in the refrigerator, and served it cold. Like in the summer, you could do it.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Ooh, that'd be good.
So
With some lemon zest.
remember, this was half the recipe.
Okay.
You would have twice that much, okay? All right, we're ready to serve. Okay. I'm just going to pour some right into this cute little bowl. That. I also like to serve my soups in like decorative coffee mugs. I think that's fun. So I'll put it in a decorative coffee mug. Let me go get one so I can show you. So you could put it like in something like this, and then serving plate with like a nice, slice of baguette or two, or some crostini, or crackers or something.
So don't use my good old boy cup.
Okay. You can use your good old boy cup. Very important.
Hotty toddy, gosh almighty.
That's right.
Fennel is
Oh,
delicious if you wanted to add a little bit of orange zest. This is what I forgot to show you in last week's class, was adding a little orange zest. It adds color and flavor. Fennel is delicious with that. Um, Even when you're cooking this recipe, you could add uh, fresh garlic to the recipe if you wanted. You could add a little bit of fresh ginger. I'm also going to add a tiny bit of lemon zest. You'll see it adds like a little color and flavor. I'm going to take some of those chopped palm fennel fronds that we had and put those right on top. Now, I love fresh crab.
oh, you're
Okay.
killing me.
So this is lump crab meat. Some people don't care for crab, so you could use lobster. You could use some diced cooked shrimp. If you're vegan, vegetarian, I would add pistachio. Yeah.
Ooh, that sounds good too.
Wait, where does the
Okay.
pistachio go?
Right on top.
Oh, like a little crunchy. Oh my God.
Wouldn't
Okay.
that be good? Oh my goodness.
Now I have a little bit of truffle oil. So I'm going to take a little truffle oil and just drizzle over the top like that. And wow, I really wish you guys were here.
Oh my God.
I do
Let's
too.
see it. Let's see it. I'm so hungry.
um, if you're vegan but not if you're vegetarian but not vegan, another nice addition to this would be just a little hint of goat cheese.
Oh, yes.
Ooh, boy.
Okay, are you ready?
Well, show it to
Okay,
us first, Susan.
what?
I wanted to see the bowl.
Sorry, I messed it up.
Okay.
You can't really see it.
Beautiful. Oh, that looks good. Mm.
Okay.
Now you're making me hungry. We need to be there.
You do. Come on out. I got plenty
I
of room.
wish I could.
It really is delicious. I'm not just making that up. It's really good.
It looks delicious.
So you added crab meat, the orange and lemon zest with the
A
fennel
little
soup
oil
and the truffle. Okay.
and the fennel frond.
And the prawns for
Yeah.
garnish.
Yeah, for garnish.
Beautiful. Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
Oh,
And I brought the
I'm gonna
class.
try it.
I'm still good for time. So I made that from start to finish. You saw it within like 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yum.
I'm gonna go buy some fennel right now.
I'm gonna go to the store and see if I can find some.
Mother, you and I can do it on Portal. We'll do it together.
Yeah, that'd be great, darling. Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, so what questions do you have? Did you ask
I
them all?
have one question about preparing the fennel. Is it okay do you have to wash the fronds as well? You know, with a mushroom you brush. So with the fronds, not the bulb, you can just immerse the whole thing in water or spray it.
Yeah, you wash the whole thing. And because, as I showed you earlier, how interwoven they grow like that. You really want to let the water get deep in there. And really, once we chopped it, you could rinse it again and just make sure it's drained really well. Use it. But no, you can definitely wash the whole thing.
I think a lot of people have probably had fennel and not realized it. Like they've had a quiche, perhaps, that's had fennel with whatever other ingredient. I think I love anything in the onion family. I love shallots. I love fennel, onion, any of those things. I'm just crazy about it.
What I think is interesting, I think people hear the word fennel and I hate to say it, but I think they get really scared, like, what's fennel? And
That was like me.
Yeah. It's like, it's not that scary. It's really
So
fun.
what would you serve this as a starter? When you've served this for like a dinner party or for one of your events, Susan, give us the landscape of how you would present it, and what would you present after the soup course? I mean, this
Well,
could be a meal with the crab meat, it appears.
yeah, exactly. I mean, really, if I were doing this, I could see myself serving this in the winter time. I would probably serve it in a smaller dish. So even what did I do with my coffee mug? So I would probably serve it in more like a demitasse, as an aperitivo kind of, starter course. And then I would follow it with probably a pork tenderloin.
Oh,
Actually,
Oh boy.
it's the perfect starter for the recipe that we're doing next week. So, and
oh.
everyone who's watching, I didn't pay Steve to say that, but this would be the perfect starter course to the dish that we're doing next week, which is,
Oh, good. Okay. Great.
yeah,
And
so
what kind
chicken
of,
marbella is an
what is it?
incredible dish you're gonna love, and this would be a great starter course for that. And then I would follow it with a light salad. So do the salad like they do in Europe. Do the salad after the meal, and then enjoy, say, like a nice, really simple lemon dessert. Like I make, I can't, lemon souffle glacé, or like a very light, almost like a key lime tart type, where it's very
Mm.
powerful in flavor, but light on the palate, and also a very small portion so that you can finish it. However, if I was doing this during the spring or summertime for a ladies' brunch, I would make this the main course, with the crab. And then I would serve it afterwards. I would serve like maybe a nice fruit and cheese plate.
Mm,
Mm.
lovely.
I'm starving now, Susan.
I love the idea of going with the kind of the green, kind of light green, white theme of adding a little pistachio on top for the
I
crunch.
think that would be beautiful. Be
Well, and
good
also
too.
the flavor of the pistachio and the oils in the pistachio are going to complement well with the intense flavor of the fennel, the licorice
Yeah.
flavor of the fennel. So,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
pistachios also have really nice health qualities. They have, nuts have a lot of protein and omega-3s. They're good for the brain, good for the heart. So all these dishes are really super healthy for you, but you really don't think about the added benefit of the health because they taste so good.
I can't
That's
wait to make
great,
it.
Susan. Me
Well,
too.
for
Steve, you're
all
gonna have to
you,
come help me.
so Steve and Vinny, I don't think you saw, but I had these made.
How
Oh,
cute. Oh, how cute. I love it,
oh my goodness,
Susan.
with the bikini logo. I love that.
Isn't that cute? That's
It's
too cute, Susan.
beautiful.
Well, if we have to be in a pandemic, we have to make lemonade out of lemons.
That's exactly right, gal. Make lemonade out of lemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
Well,
is
That's
next week again? I missed part of it. So what's the main course for next week?
next week is chicken marbella. And so
Ooh.
I'm not going to give away the ingredients of the dish. And because if I did, you'd be like, oh, I don't know if that sounds so good. Kind of like fennel, like, oh, fennel's scary. But it's one of my favorite dishes. And
oh
every time
good.
I've ever made it, people just go crazy. They want the recipe. Yeah.
Oh
Okay,
good.
we'll be
Good,
there.
good.
Yeah. So don't hang up.
Yes.
I'm gonna stop recording, but don't hang up.
Okay.
So we can just like chat for a second. And also don't forget at the end of the month, I'm gonna be starting my video podcast, at home with Susan.
Hey.
Yeah.